Hello and welcome everybody. I am Durgesh. We are gathered here to have another session of WeLEAP Empowering Webinar Series. So in this series, we invite experts from academia and industry who have been developing their skills for decades in their own field and have established mastery on things they have been working on. So today, we have Dr. Kelly Scarff. She is an assistant professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering at Virginia Tech, and she is also the founder of the STEM Writing Institute. So basically, during her time, she realized how important it was for the people who have English as their secondary language, and they are lacking the proper mentorship and coaching on uh, technical documents in STEM. So she is the founder of this STEM Writing Institute, SWI. They conduct a lot of workshops and sessions. So today we will have a chance to get to know about Dr. Scarff's own background and career path and how she went through her own journey and what motivated her to found the STEM Writing Institute, what kind of different events they do. And also in the upcoming session, we will be having a workshop. So today is the first part of the session, which is kind of introduction. And the next session will be the demo workshop by Professor Scarff. With this, Professor Scarff, very welcome. I hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for those who are here. So I am Kelly Scarff, and I just want to briefly talk to you today about kind of my path to this, the STEM Writing Institute and what I provide for engineers. So I have a degree, my degree is in rhetoric and writing. So I'm not an engineer by trade. I have worked with engineers in other capacities, particularly through writing. So I have some industry and government experience. I used to work for a consulting firm whose client was the Department of Energy. So I worked for DOE for many years. I was their lead technical editor and writer. And I edited literature on fossil fuels. So everything from technical reports to white papers, to literature reviews, to proposals, to presentations, to conference notes, all sorts of stuff. It was my job to get those ready for publication or for the client. And then also in academia, I have taught writing and research courses in 2 different engineering departments, not counting the one I'm in now. The other 2, I was in material science engineering and biomedical engineering departments. So I taught two of those departments. And then I also taught courses kind of surrounding technical writing in an English department. So I've taught science writing, technical writing, tech editing and style. I've taught composition as well. So all of that is to say that my background has really kind of been building up to working exclusively with technical documents and in particular engineering communication. So my research focuses are in rhetoric and writing studies, obviously, because that is where my kind of home field is, home discipline, but in particular, professional technical communication, engineering communication, and then also environmental communication, which kind of folds into my dissertation research. So I went from government to academia, and I also have an associate's degree in graphic design. So it took me a while to get to this path, but it felt very natural because when I was a technical editor for DOE, I was editing literature on fossil fuels for expert audiences, so for other engineers. But I was really interested in how public or non-expert audiences interacted with that literature, or if they did. So how did community members and citizens deal with things like natural gas pipelines or fracking? How did they understand them when those types of projects came to their area? So I went back to school to get my Ph.D. and my dissertation focused on public hearings, and in particular how community members read and processed and use technical documents in their comments to inform the comments at a public hearing. And the public hearings were about the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a natural gas pipeline that is slated to go through West Virginia and Virginia. So now at Virginia Tech, I teach engineering communication courses, primarily undergraduate, both writing and public speaking presentation. And then I also direct the mechanical engineering technical communication program. And so this is sort of a two-prong approach. My big project in that area is a podcast. So that's the podcast. You can get it on Spotify. That QR code will take you right there. And we interview engineers in industry and academia and government, public sector, private sector, whatever the case may be. We interview engineers to learn more about the type of job they do and the type of communication they do. And so the goal there is to help prepare students and undergraduate engineering students of all kind, help them understand or see kind of the breadth of the options they have as engineers, and then also help them understand the more communication focused aspects of engineering positions. And then I also offer writing workshops through the technical communication program. These are a lot of, job application workshops. How do you write an effective resume or cover letter? I've had, IMRAD, what is the scientific journal formatting process, right? How do you deal with that in your writing? So various different types of workshops and the podcast. And then I also work with graduate students, and I provide them with personalized feedback on their writing. Now, this is something that I really kind of work hard to explain to my students. I'm not an editor, right? And really, you don't want me to be an editor, because me editing your writing doesn't help you. It doesn't help you become a better writer. So my job is to focus on the writing. So I'm not going through, when I work with graduate students or undergraduate students or anyone on their writing, I'm not going through and fixing their commas and their punctuation. I'm going through and helping them, guiding them through the revision process for their writing and explaining what the issue is in the sentence or in the framing of the document, and helping them realize, give them some tips or tools to fix that writing and to revise it so that they can grow as writers, right? So it's not like they're giving me a document, I fix it and send it back to them and they're done. The goal is to eventually they won't need someone like me anymore, right? Because they are learning themselves how to become more effective writers. And so this is helpful for all students, but I have found in my experience that ESL students especially really appreciate this type of feedback, because they are more eager to kind of get a foundation for that language. And then I also, I just said that, but I want to reiterate that it's a longer process. The giving writing as giving writing feedback versus editing, it's a longer process because you're essentially having an independent study of sorts, but it is worth it in the end. Several of the grad students that I've worked with have published their articles where they have been struggling before to publish them. The technical content was there. It was just the writing that needed to be revised.
So Kelly, thank you for sharing that. I have one question.
Yeah.
So during your experience working with international students who have English as secondary language, are there some common patterns you have seen, like some similar kind of mistakes they make while they are writing, especially like when they are writing their research proposals for grant or maybe like research statement for graduate school applications?
Yeah, so there's two patterns I have noticed. One, I think, is because they're English language learners, but the other one I think there's a different reason there. The English language learners, oftentimes, there's this disconnect between what words and roles words play in one culture, translating that to the other. So there is oftentimes a lot of my international students struggle with things like prepositions and articles, right? And so that is kind of indicative of someone that has English as a second language. And articles are hard, right? You could find any native English speaker, ask them to define articles, a and the, and they probably wouldn't be able to do it, right? It just becomes so instinctive. So it is something that is really hard to teach. But I find that once I start to go through each instance and ask, it's a lot of question and answer, the writing feedback, because I need to know what you mean to say here, and then I help you get there. So a lot of times through that conversation and dialogue, they start to pick up on how to use articles. So then their revisions, oftentimes, every time you see a revision, it has less and less issues with the articles. And then the other issue I see, and I don't think this is a language barrier, I think this is the engineers that I have helped revise their writing, they don't step back far enough to explain what they're doing. So they don't frame the document, and they jump right in, and they just assume that the audience is going to follow. And that's because they're in it, right? They're in the trenches. They are really close to that research, and it's hard for people to kind of step back from that. So those are the two patterns mostly that I've seen.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to the first one. When I was writing my first kind of conference paper in second year of PhD, the the main mistake I was doing was not using the articles. And then one of the seniors in my lab, he told me that, okay, because Hindi language doesn't have articles, so you don't know like where to put it. Like it doesn't feel natural to us.
No,
But
yes, that's
yeah, practice
is,
way.
yep, that's understandable. And even I've gotten a lot better at teaching it over the years, but even in the beginning when I was trying to explain it to my students, when I first started teaching, it's hard. It's hard when it's your native language. It's hard again to step back and see it from someone who acquired it at a later date. Okay, so the exigence or the motivation for this business that I started, as Durgesh kind of alluded to, I worked in industry, and so I saw a lot of these writing patterns crop up, especially as someone who was editing and seeing all of the documents. I really started to find these patterns. Like, some engineers are amazing communicators and writers, absolutely. Some are in the middle, and some really need help. And a lot of times the engineers were coming in from undergrad and kind of being caught off guard by having to write so much. And so I noticed that when I worked in industry, and then when I came to academia, the graduate students, the undergraduates, not so much, right? It seems almost as if they're not aware they have to write a lot, or they don't want to admit they have to write a lot. But the graduate students know, because they are writing their thesis, they are writing their dissertation, they have to get published. So they are very well aware that writing is a key component of engineering. And so they seek me out. And I ran a writing workshop one time, my first semester at Virginia Tech, and a lot of international students showed up, and they wanted, at that point, it wasn't a class, right? It was just a quiet writing workshop where we came together and spent time doing the same thing together, but it was quiet. We were all working on our own thing, and they wanted lessons, right? So they were just really, really desiring help with their writing, which is then when I started offering one-on-one feedback with them. So those two things combined led me to look for what we call writing workshops. In English and in creative writing, we call them writing workshops. And you really kind of go and you just go over your own writing, and you have people to kind of bounce ideas off of and help you with different things. But then you also have a lot of time to write. And I thought, okay, there has to be something like that out there for engineers and STEM students in general, but engineers. And I couldn't find anything. And I thought, well, this is probably a good gap that I can fill with my expertise. And so that is how SWI started. And then as I was developing it more, I was very determined, because it's gone through several iterations trying to like find where it is best suited for the clients. But something that I really adhere to is I had to acknowledge, and I do acknowledge, that graduate students and industry professionals, they are very busy, and they do not need writing lessons that they cannot apply to their writing immediately, right? And so SWI offers really kind of substantial and usable, practical, applicable writing lessons for technical writers, which includes engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission is to help burgeoning STEM professionals find their voice, improve their communication skills through their clear and concise writing, and gain confidence in their writing abilities. My goal is to hopefully, after you take my courses, you don't need them anymore, right? I don't want to sell you something that you have to keep coming back for. My goal is to help you become a better writer so you don't need to take courses like SWI in the future. So our structure is pretty basic, and if you've taken any type of writing course in college, you probably remember this structure. So we provide participants with practical and applicable technical writing content using a three-prong approach. So every class has a lecture, exercises, group and individual exercises, and then a discussion about those exercises. So you don't ever leave a class not having answers, right? So you will always do some sort of exercise, and then you will get the answer to the exercise, and we will talk about, you know, areas where you struggled, things that helped you get the exercise correct. And then we also offer one-on-one consultations. So that feedback I give graduate students at Virginia Tech, I offer through my company. Everyone gets a free 30-minute assessment on their writing, and we talk about your goals for the document, right? You have to have a document. And then we set up kind of a schedule to help you with that writing. And that goal, of course, is to help you become a more effective writer as well. And we can meet virtually, we can meet via email, we can do it over the phone, whatever works best for the client. So SWI writing courses are developed across 5 areas of communication. And the first area is writing style. These are going to be the majority of the courses we offer. Some of these courses are offered as their own, right? Nominalization, that's its own writing course. But some are offered together, right? So we have like active and passive voice is a component of a lot of different writing courses. So you'll see that come up in the nominalization, but it won't be its own lecture. So we combine some of these, and then some of them are their own lectures. The second one is genre. So it is important for engineers and other writers, technical writers, to kind of understand the different genres that they work in, because every genre has a different format and purpose. And if you understand those two things, it will help your writing, because it will help define or inform the tone you need to use. It will help you, it will inform the type of language, right? Can you use jargon? Can you use, or do you need to, you know, steer away from jargon or offer definitions? And also the purposes, right? A literature review is very, very different from, say, a proposal. And oftentimes lit reviews are it's a really hard genre that engineers and people, I struggled with it years ago. So lit reviews, I think, is one of our most popular genre workshops, because people seem to really struggle with that. And oftentimes you do have to write that as an engineer, graduate student, or in the field. But yeah, these are the genres we cover. We talk about, you know, the different sections and the different moves you have to make in the section, and just what the genre is and what you need to think about as you're working through these documents. The third area is structure and organization. So we're offering a workshop tomorrow, which I have information about later in this presentation, but we talk about introduction section. The moves that you make and the questions you have to answer in introduction sections are the same across several different genres. So an introduction section, you have to answer the same questions in journal articles, tech reports, proposals, memos, white papers. So there's a lot of different genres that share common attributes of introduction sections. So I have a writing course on just the introduction section that will help you with all of these different documents. And then we talk about, we have a writing course on the IMRAD format, which is the common format for scientific journal articles, also common format for technical reports. And then we also talk a bit about genre adaptation, because you can't And I always use technical reports and journal articles for this example. They share a lot of common attributes, but they're not the same thing. And so you can't just take a technical report and submit it to a journal. You have to change, you have to shift the genre. So I have a writing course on that as well. The fourth area is research best practices. We go over, what are keywords and how to find them. Keywords can often be elusive. How to identify reputable sources, how to keep everything organized and in order, how to integrate your quotes. It's sort of like the literature review, because we talk a lot about that. But for this specific lecture and writing course, it's more along the lines of, outside of the lit review, how do you integrate your quotes into the other areas of your document? And then the fifth area is visual design. We go over some design principles to help you, kind of see what you need to look at when you're putting together your presentation or your poster. We talk about things that help the audience, right? Caption, titles, copyright, accessibility, and then how to shift. You can't just take a written genre and throw some pictures on it and say, this is my presentation. You have to know what to pick from that written document for your visual. And then we also cover other topics. SWI is very flexible in that we have the core writing courses that we offer, but we can also do customized courses. So a few that we've taught in the past, we've taught people how to use a template, what is a template and what it's there for and how to navigate it. What is its function? What is its purpose? What do you need to consider? And then also contract reporting etiquette. There was an oddly high number of people who weren't sure what to include in their reports when they need to submit one. And so we have a lecture on that as well to help folks through that. So the writing course that the last one for this year is coming up tomorrow, and it is about writing effective introductions. It will be offered in the new year as well, but it's a 90-minute virtual course. All of our courses are between 60 and 90 minutes, depending on the topic, and it's running over lunch. So, hopefully those of you who are interested in it will be able to make it. The cost is $30. I try really hard to keep these costs low because it's hard, right? Economically speaking, we're in a hard spot in society, but also as a graduate student, as an entry-level industry professional, you don't really want to or can't spend a lot on this type of professional development. It is well worth it though. And I always like to compare it to a traditional writing course, a semester-long writing course. Course by course, SWI courses are more cost efficient. So if you were to pay per course for a semester-long writing class, you would be paying more than SWI courses. And then I do offer a code for 15% off for WeLEAP, and I can, when I come back in the new year to do the demo, I can adjust that code for folks then too. And that's it. That's all I have for this intro. But are there any questions?
So much, Dr. Scarff. Sorry, Sharanya. Yeah, you can go ahead.
No, sure. Thanks, Diksha. So this is really nice introduction to writing and aspects to keep in mind. I was wondering if you also do something to address writer's block, because a lot of times as graduate students also, you have all these results you want to write together and put a paper out, or you need to put all of this material into your dissertation. But when you think that you have all that much of writing to do, the momentum to get going is really low at times, and you just don't know where to start from. So I was wondering if that's something you also cover as part of your, writing courses.
That is such a good question. So I don't have any writing courses on writer's block. However, the course tomorrow, and I might just throw it up again in case, just to kind of get it on your radar. So this course, the Writing Effective Introductions, that will absolutely help your writer's block, because
Sure.
you part of it is asking you direct questions about your research. So
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
don't think in terms of writing an article, you think in terms of just answering a basic question. What is your what is your research problem? Just tell me what that is. Tell me who your audience is. Tell me why your research is important. What's it going to help? Right. So just this 90-minute course takes you through those types of questions that have to go into nearly every introduction.
Mhm.
Right. And so that alone will get you, I guarantee you, just by answering those questions, it will get you maybe not fully past the writer's block, but it will get you a long way to start.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very useful.
I have another question actually, Dr. Scarff. So there's one thing like we use ChatGPT a lot to improve our writings. Initially, when ChatGPT came, I was actually using it to directly take the content from there. But now that I realize that, my personal writing is not getting improved by that. So what I do is I write on my own, and then I like ask for suggestions on improvement from ChatGPT. But could you suggest like some more ways that I can use ChatGPT maybe to improve my writing? Like, yeah.
Yeah, this is a very good question. And it is something that writing study, like people in my field, are really kind of grappling with right now. So ChatGPT is interesting. I've used it. I have used it some for my own business, but I've never been fully satisfied with what it's produced. One of the ways that I tell students to use ChatGPT to help them, and this might not necessarily be through the writing, but it's a really good tool to use to help you with document structure and organization. And just by doing that, if you ask it, what is the appropriate order for writing a research paper on X, Y, and Z. And it will tell you, it will give you a suggested order. It will even give you suggested like subsections, sections and subsections. So it basically helps you outline your document. And then you can start to see your document as, or your research project as a story with a linear kind of storyline. That alone, I think, would be very helpful to help you with your writing, just getting help with the organization. Because I always tell engineers, you are storytellers. It doesn't matter if your content is technical or fantastical. It doesn't matter. Every document you write, every document everyone writes is telling a story. And if you can keep that in mind, you can make the driest content interesting if you think of it in terms of telling your story, and doing it that way also helps with the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I used it once to create a structure that I used then, to make my writing improved. Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my other question was like related to literature review. So recently, when I was writing the proposal for my qualifiers, I had to write a lot of a really big introduction of like 3 pages, and I was losing the flow of it, as in like what should come first. And there are so many papers that I have to cite, but writing these big introductions is like a trouble. So I think, yeah, going through your courses and things like that, I think that would be really helpful.
Yes. Yeah. The literature reviews are hard. They are hard genres. I don't know of anyone that I've ever met that said, oh, lit reviews are easy. They're hard because you have to kind of use other people's language to create a reason for your own study. And so it's hard to overlap and put all these other authors into conversation in a way that shapes the exigence or need for your own study. And so ChatGPT can help with that as well. It can't write literature reviews in large part because you lose copyright for anything that ChatGPT writes for you. You don't own it. So it's a really dangerous tool if you're trying to use it for your own writing. But it can be very helpful in terms of identifying literature or, comparing two articles with one another. It can aid you in that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for your answers.
Of course.
I'm happy that we discussed about the use of ChatGPT and highlighted on what it should be used for and not, because this thing is freely available and I've been seeing some students abusing it. And even myself, I was curious about it. So I attended a workshop actually at my current workplace at Intel. And I got to learn that ChatGPT should not be used as a technical knowledge hub or something, but rather than like framing things, getting ideas. Because the thing is, it can generate some false information based on whatever it reads. It cannot differentiate if a highly reputed journal article content is more reliable versus a college student's report, and it will just combine all the information together. So we should never ask it to write some technical reports with the content, but rather like finding the structure. Okay, how should I write a good technical report? What are the main parts of a good proposal? Things like that. So that is something to keep in mind, and good that we mentioned it.
Yes, absolutely. ChatGPT is really good for helping with writing, but an SWI writing course, for instance, is going to help in a very different way. It's going to be more it's going to fine tune your writing and give you the tools you need to do the writing in the future, because ChatGPT can't do that writing for you. There's a hand up. Sharana?
Yeah. Also, like, while ChatGPT is great, right? Like, if you have to put content into ChatGPT, which is, say it has restrictions, like it's say ITAR restricted, or it's confidential information or proprietary information, you do not know how the security aspect of it is even handled, right? Like, so you're kind of in a gray area in that, in such a situation. So I think it's really essential that we are able to write stuff well on our own, despite having ChatGPT around.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It's you do give up that proprietary information, and that really that is very dangerous for your own research. And then also I have heard, I mean, this is just very anecdotal, but I've heard from several engineers that their companies don't let them use ChatGPT.
Yep.
If you're not learning how to become a good writer or an effective writer, I always tell my students, don't think of writing in terms of good and bad. Think of it in terms of levels of effectiveness. If you don't put in the work to become an effective writer, and you just rely on these shortcuts like ChatGPT where you can, you're going to go into industry and have a really hard time with the writing aspects of your job.
Absolutely.
Kelly, in one of your slides, you showed that generative AI or ChatGPT is used. So like generative AI as such, how do you use it?
I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that question effectively.
Because as far as I understand, generative AI is usually like filling the gaps in something, right?
Yeah, so I'll use it a lot for to practice, not to use, but not to use for any type of document, but just practicing and kind of understanding how it responds to different prompts. I will often have students, or I myself will say, thermodynamics can be defined as, and then let ChatGPT kind of generate that definition. So I guess that would be that would be my current answer, but I would need to think about that more. And the generative AI is something that I'm still learning about. So I use ChatGPT, and then we kind of talk about generative AI, but that's really the only type of exercise that I use with it.
Okay, yeah, good to know. So, thanks for the presentation. I have one more question. So, is the SWI courses available for anybody across the globe?
Anyone across the globe. And I should also say I have a certificate from the University of Toronto in teaching English as a second language. So every course that I create keeps that in mind. And so there are, I kind of pull in, cultural language differences and try to do my best to explain that aspect of the writing lessons if it's pertinent. So yeah, it's very ESL friendly, and it's in fact a lot of the people who take the courses are international students.
Yeah, and then the students, do they get a kind of a certificate or something which
Yes, everyone who attends an SWI course gets a certificate for attending that course. And it's a fairly new company, but something that we are working on is kind of having a suite of courses so that if you take these certain courses over the course of a year or two, then you get like a more substantial kind of, we're still looking into our options here, but a more substantial certificate to say that you kind of took instead of taking a course, you took like basically a writing course, like a semester-long writing course equivalent.
Okay, yeah, that's useful because usually like when people do some of such courses from a accredited university or something, they can write it on their CV or resume.
Oh, absolutely. You can write on your CV. You can use these in your annual review. They would be, because I know as a graduate student, I had to do that. And as an employee anywhere, I had to do annual reviews. So this can be used as professional development as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for coming today and sharing with us all this.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you have, well, let me just share. Do you mind if I share one more slide? Because there was a slide on the sample I was going to do today. So this slide in particular, if you want to subscribe to SWI to get updates, we don't, as a consumer, I do not like subscribing to things because I just get bombarded with email. We don't do that to you. We will send you an email when we release a new course. That's it. That's when we send our emails, just to get it on your radar that, hey, there's a new course coming out, or here's the kind of spring course sections that we're offering. And then if you also sign up, you get a free writing checklist that you can use to kind of guide your writing and make sure you have everything you need in the document. So that QR code on the right will lead you to my website for SWI. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can put in your email and you can get all those updates.
Okay, thank you. That's very useful. And so, yeah, with this introduction, it gives a very good background for your upcoming demo workshop, which we will conduct in January, in month of January or February sometime. So thank you everybody for joining, and I hope you learned something about technical writing in STEM. And stay tuned for our demo workshop, the part 2 of the series from Dr. Kelly Scarff. Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.